If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns are once again staring down a difficult chapter in what has already been a turbulent season. Just when it seemed like they had finally managed to build some consistency, a devastating blow struck the heart of their offensive line. Left tackle Dawg Jones, who had been viewed as one of the more promising young linemen on this roster, went down with a significant injury during the team's gritty win over the Green Bay Packers. It wasn't just your typical ankle roll or a tweak of the knee that keeps a player out for a few weeks. No, this was serious, season-ending damage. Jones suffered a torn LCL and a hamstring avulsion after absorbing a low hit from a Packers defender. And just like that, his 2025 campaign was over before it ever truly got a chance to develop. For a player in his position and at his stage in his career, the setback is monumental, and for the Browns, the implications ripple across the entire roster. The scene itself was brutal to watch. Jones crumpled to the ground immediately, and you could feel the air being sucked out of Cleveland's sideline. Offensive linemen aren't often the players who draw gasps from the crowd when they get hurt, but in this case, everyone in attendance seemed to understand how important Jones was to this team. Protecting the blind side of the quarterback is one of the most crucial responsibilities on any football field, and losing someone who had grown into that role over time isn't something a team can just gloss over. The Browns' medical staff wasted no time in diagnosing the severity of the injury, and before long, fans were hit with the sobering reality: Dawg Jones would not be coming back this year. That announcement alone shifted the conversation in Cleveland from optimism about the Packers' win to worry about what the rest of the season would look like without him. Stepping in for Jones was veteran Cornelius Lucas, a player who has carved out a respectable career as a swing tackle and dependable depth piece. Lucas has seen his fair share of snaps in the NFL, and there's no denying that he has the experience to hold things together in a pinch. But asking him to be the long-term solution on the left side is an entirely different question. While Lucas has been serviceable in spot duty, there's a reason he has spent much of his career as a backup or rotational player rather than a permanent fixture on the blind side. The Browns coaching staff now finds itself in a precarious position: trust Lucas and hope for the best, or search aggressively for outside help before the season slips away. According to reports, Cleveland appears to be leaning toward the latter. Mary Kay Cabot has noted that the Browns front office is actively exploring potential trade scenarios to bring in a tackle who can help stabilize the offensive line. That urgency is fueled not only by the loss of Jones, but also by the absence of Jack Conklin, who is set to miss his third straight game. Suddenly, the Browns, who entered the season already worried about the health and durability of their offensive line, are scrambling for answers in real time. With a roster that isn't particularly deep at tackle, the clock is ticking for them to find reinforcements. The potential trade market for offensive linemen is always tricky, but a few names have already surfaced as possible targets. One that stands out is Jermaine Illuminor of the New York Giants. Illuminor is caught up in a complicated situation in New York as the Giants struggle to find consistency and figure out what direction their season is heading. With their playoff hopes dwindling and roster decisions looming, a player like Illuminor could very well be made available if the price is right. For the Browns, landing someone like him wouldn't just be about plugging a hole. It would be about preventing the offense from completely imploding behind a shaky line. Other teams that could potentially be trade partners include the Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans, both of whom might be willing to part ways with offensive line talent if their own seasons continue to head south. The Browns' urgency to act is also amplified by the brutal reality of their offensive line statistics. Entering this week, Cleveland ranks near the bottom of the league in both pass protection and run blocking. Their line has allowed pressure on nearly one-third of the quarterback's dropbacks, ranking 22nd in the NFL, and their pass blocking grade of 59.5 is a dismal 27th according to PFF. Things look even worse when you glance at the run blocking numbers, where their 50.2 grade places them 30th out of 32 teams. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They reflect the everyday struggles of a team that can't protect its quarterback and can't create space in the running game. For a franchise that built much of its recent identity on physical, punishing football in the trenches, the drop-off has been glaring. It's almost ironic, considering the Browns did invest in offensive line help during the offseason. With their starters aging and injuries already beginning to pile up in recent years, the front office knew they needed depth. And for a while, it looked like those moves might give them the insurance policy they needed to survive a grueling season. But now, just a few weeks in, that insurance has run dry. The average age of their offensive line is over 28 years old, which in NFL years makes them a unit that's already flirting with decline. The injuries have only accelerated that process, and what's left is a group that looks increasingly incapable of holding up against the relentless pass rushes they face week after week. This all leads to a critical question. How aggressive should the Browns be at the trade deadline? The deadline itself is fast approaching, set for November 4th at 4 p.m., and every day that passes without action is another day that Cleveland risks falling behind in a competitive AFC. If the Browns view themselves as legitimate contenders, then making a move for an impact lineman is almost non-negotiable. But if the front office believes this season is slipping beyond repair, they could take a more conservative approach, perhaps even entertaining the idea of selling off assets to build for the future. It's a crossroads moment for the organization, one that could define not just this season, but the trajectory of the team for years to come. Fans, of course, don't want to hear about long-term planning right now. They want answers. They want to see their team stay competitive in a season that still has promise despite the setbacks. The Browns have shown resilience before, clawing their way through injuries and adversity, but this feels like a test of a different magnitude. The offensive line is the foundation of any team, and when that foundation crumbles, everything else follows. Quarterbacks get hurried. Running backs have no room to operate. Drives stall. Games are lost. And seasons, sometimes, are wasted. Cleveland's brass knows this better than anyone, and the spotlight will remain firmly on them as the trade deadline inches closer. Do they trust Cornelius Lucas and hope he can play beyond expectations? Do they push hard for a player like Jermaine Illuminor, gambling draft capital or young talent in the process? Do they search the league for other, perhaps less obvious, options? Whatever they decide, it will be a move that carries enormous weight. Because for the Browns, this isn't just about replacing DeJuan Jones. It's about proving that they can weather the storm of adversity and keep fighting in a season that refuses to give them any favors. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. Man, the NFL never sleeps, and sometimes the real fireworks don't come from the games on Sunday, but from what's said off the field, behind microphones, when emotions spill out and honesty takes over. That's exactly what seems to be brewing around Cleveland right now, because Shedeur Sanders, the young quarterback still carving out his path in the league and trying to make a name of his own, apparently lit a fire in a recent interview. And not just a little spark, but a full-on detonation aimed at none other than Joe Flacco, the veteran who's been around forever, the guy with a Super Bowl ring, and someone many Browns fans have been looking at as a steadying hand. But Shedeur wasn't exactly praising the veteran presence. In fact, his words carried an edge, the kind of edge that makes you raise an eyebrow and say, wait a second, did he really just say that? Because according to the chatter, Shedeur not only criticized Flacco's role, but openly questioned the hierarchy inside the Browns quarterback room. And when a rookie or young QB starts pulling that thread, you know it's going to unravel into a whole mess of debates, hot takes, and locker room whispers. Now, let's take a step back, because context matters. Cleveland has been in this weird quarterback carousel for what feels like an eternity, searching for stability, trying to piece together something that sticks. The fan base is passionate, the organization desperate for consistency, and every little detail about who's under center becomes a national talking point. When Flacco arrived, a lot of folks saw him as a mentor figure, someone to bring maturity and calm into a stormy situation. He's not the future, everybody knows that, but he's supposed to be the reliable veteran presence, the guy you lean on when things get rough. But Shedeur, fresh off his transition from the college spotlight into the brutal reality of the NFL, apparently doesn't see it that way. Instead of bowing his head, soaking in the wisdom, and waiting for his turn, he's looking around and wondering out loud why the hierarchy is structured the way it is. Why should he defer to Flacco? Why should a ring from more than a decade ago dictate today's pecking order? And when that kind of frustration comes out publicly, it shakes the foundation of the room. The fascinating part is that Shedeur's tone, according to those close to the situation, wasn't one of innocent curiosity or respectful questioning. No, it carried a sting, the kind of sharpness that turns into headlines, the kind of phrasing that feels like a challenge rather than a conversation. He didn't just question Flacco's current abilities, he allegedly framed it as if the veteran is more of a roadblock than a guide, as if the Browns structure is clinging to the past instead of embracing the future. That's the kind of message that cuts both ways. Some people will applaud the confidence, saying this is exactly the kind of fire you want in your young quarterback, a guy unwilling to just sit quietly in the corner. Others will say it's reckless, disrespectful, and a dangerous move when you haven't proven a thing yet at the professional level. And both of those interpretations are going to ripple through the locker room, because teammates, coaches, and even management will all hear those words and make their own judgments. What makes this even juicier is the Browns' history of locker room tension and media distractions. They've been through it all: draft busts, off-field controversies, high-profile trades, endless speculation about who's going to finally fix the quarterback position. So when a young QB steps up and basically says, "I don't buy into this hierarchy, I don't think Flacco deserves this pedestal," it feels like another chapter in a saga that never seems to calm down. And you know what happens next. Reporters start circling. Beat writers dig for quotes. Former players chime in on social media, either defending the veteran or siding with the boldness of the young gun. Suddenly, what might have been a throwaway comment snowballs into a full-on storyline. Is the quarterback room divided? Do the Browns have a problem brewing right under their noses? Is this about Shedeur's hunger to prove himself, or is it a sign that leadership within the team isn't as solid as advertised? From a pure personality standpoint, Shedeur has always carried himself with swagger. That's no secret. He grew up in the spotlight. He's used to cameras. He's used to having a microphone in his face. And he's not afraid to express himself in ways that feel raw, unfiltered, and at times controversial. But in the NFL, that kind of bravado can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, confidence is everything. Quarterbacks live and die by their self-belief. On the other hand, there's a code, a culture of respect, especially when it comes to veterans who have earned their stripes. So the fact that Shedeur reportedly chose Flacco as the target of his detonation is fascinating. Of all people, Flacco is known for being calm, quiet, not really the kind of guy who stirs drama. He's the definition of steady, not flashy, not confrontational. And that's who Shedeur decided to blast? It's almost symbolic, like he wasn't just calling out Joe Flacco, the man, but everything Flacco represents. The old guard, the reliance on experience over potential, the tendency of organizations to lean on the familiar instead of fully embracing the future. Now, let's not forget the psychological aspect here. For a young QB, patience is the hardest thing in the world. Sitting, waiting, watching someone else run the show while you feel like you're ready, like you've got the arm, the vision, the leadership to take over. That eats at competitors, and Shedeur clearly is wired to compete. Maybe this was less about disrespect and more about frustration boiling over, a signal to the coaching staff and to the league at large that he doesn't want to be hidden away in the shadows. Maybe he's saying, "I'm not here to hold a clipboard, I'm here to play." And yet, the way he said it, sharp, direct, cutting, guarantees that it will be received as shade thrown directly at Flacco, whether that was the intention or not. And once it's out there, you can't take it back. The media machine will spin it. Fans will dissect every syllable, and Flacco himself, quiet as he may be, will definitely hear the echo of those words. What's wild is how this might impact the Browns moving forward. A quarterback room divided is a dangerous thing. Chemistry matters. Trust matters. And when the younger guy publicly questions the pecking order, it puts the coaching staff in a tough spot. Do they side with the veteran, reinforcing that experience is valued above all else? Or do they subtly acknowledge the hunger of the rookie, giving him more reps, more attention, more chances to prove he's ready? Either way, tension builds. And for a team like Cleveland, where the margin for error is razor thin in a brutal AFC North, distractions like this can derail momentum fast. Fans who have been desperate for stability might already be rolling their eyes, thinking, "Here we go again. Another quarterback drama before the leaves even fall." Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dog Pound conversation. Go Browns!